Hello and welcome to In the Making, a series of conversations from North Bennett Street School where we connect with a range of new voices, fields, and perspectives. Before we get into our conversation, I want to recognize and thank the Dora Foundation and Eaton Vance for making this program possible. Thanks for joining us, everyone. My name is Kristen Odell. I'm an NBSS staff member and host of In the Making. Tonight, we're with Laura and Rick Brown of Handshouse Studios and Henry Newhard, alumni of our Preservation Carpentry program. And this evening, we're sharing our experience on the work site of the Notre Dame Truss project in DC this past summer. We will not do deep dive into the logistics of the Truss project during this program, but rather try and present an immersive experience of being on the site itself, because it was a profound one. So we want to try to give you, pull you into that experience through this program. For further specifics on the Truss project itself, you can visit handshouse.org and speak with Rick and Laura Brown, because this is still an ongoing project. And if you have questions, throw them into the Q&A. We may not get to all of your questions by the end of the program, but we'll do our best. And with that, I am going to share a video. So this video is just touring around the cathedral that's alongside the grounds that the Truss was being built on. And I just am hoping that you all can sort of just be in this space and feel this immersive experience, and you'll slowly start to hear the axes going, the pounding of the axes. And the birds, and that's all you hear. It was a beautiful thing. I think, Rick and Laura, if you want to nod or chime in, I mean, this is probably as close to a building site as you would get to the time that the Notre Dame Cathedral was built, just as far as sounds and, yeah.
Very nice. There should be bells.
I bet this was ringing in your ears for days, Henry, and Rick and Laura.
It's just this beautiful outside perspective, only, 30, 40 feet away from the project, compared to everyone else working. It's total difference. Mm-hmm. If you just imagine how much wood they had to chop away and how many of these sounds occurred over the course of this whole project. So Handshouse Studio. Rick and Laura Brown, who are here with us, founded Handshouse Studio in 2002 as a learning by making program that creates projects outside of the traditional classroom that energize history through the reconstruction of large historical objects. That's straight from your website, so I'm pretty sure that sums up what you do, correct?
That's good. Yeah, it does.
Okay. And I love this picture of the two of you because it embodies what kind of your presence on the job site. You're so involved in the process and the project and inclusive of everyone that's on the site. If somebody new walked on the job site, you were there to speak with them and see what their story was. And you're sitting on sawhorses here, but it's, for most of the time you're up, involved, hands-on. And I really love that about your group.
Yes. Well, this time we were hands-on, more in a managerial way.
Yes, yeah. After the Truss project in DC, I was lucky enough to visit you in your studio and your workshop. And I just love this picture of the Sphinx nose in front of your barn, which again, when you told me about it, it also embodies the spirit of Handshouse. It's like, why not recreate the Sphinx nose that's been missing off of the face of the Sphinx?
Yes.
How long did this one take?
The Sphinx nose took about 2 weeks.
Wow.
And we started with using traditional tools that we made that would have been used, at that time, which were very slow and inefficient. And then, as we always say, then once the camera crew left, we pulled out the power tools.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really what they wanted us. They wanted us to finish this thing quickly, and
Right.
But yeah, it was a fun project.
And this is a shot of the inside of your workshop, which also embodies what Handshouse is. There's history and sculpture. You both are sculptors by trade and by as teachers. Sculpture, artistry, building history, and these panels in the back you can see are pieces, hand-painted panels from a huge project you did, which was recreating a Polish synagogue for the Museum of History of Polish Jews in Warsaw, Poland. And it's hard to see in this picture, but they're just stunningly hand-painted, and just another facet of your work.
And I'd like to say the work is done. When we say our work, it's done by hundreds of people. So this is not Rick and Laura's work. It's the collaboration that Henry was part of, and it's important to know that this is many people's hands. And these and on the right was the leftover wheel of a human-powered crane that was made. So anyway, go ahead.
Right. It's the hundreds of people that are involved that you all have the foundation and sort of create the nexus for these projects to exist. But then, yes, I mean, thousands of hands are thrown into these projects.
Right.
This is just a snapshot I took of a model of another project that you're working on. And you don't need to go into this. It was just a beautiful structure. I couldn't help but share it.
I love it.
Yeah. The barn itself is just so beautiful. So the site of the Truss project, that's kind of why we're here, to sort of take you into the job site itself. On the campus of Catholic University in Washington, D.C., in sort of the shadow of the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception. It's a long name. But this gorgeous cathedral, this is where timber framers came from all over the country and dropped their jobs and their families and just heard the call to sort of come and pay honor to these traditional building methods and the international call to help Notre Dame and be a part of this project. And I'm going to get to the scale of the site momentarily, but these were the schematics that were used throughout the whole project. And who produced these again?
Jerry David, he was one of our leads, working with Carpenters Without Borders, and actually drawings from Remy Fremont, who's involved in the reconstruction.
He's one of the official architects for the reconstruction of the cathedral. And so
Mhm.
they gave us, accurate drawings of a specific truss that they wanted us to explore, which is fantastic to have, work directly with them. And then our leadership team, in this case, under Jerry David, he took those drawings and redrew them for our project.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And they're to spec from the actual builders of the cathedral, correct?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah, that's what we requested. We wanted to be able to be sure that we were going to be replicating the truss, as per their drawings. So if in fact this goes to France, that it will fit.
Mm-hmm. So just more pictures of the site and the scale of the site, with the huge cathedral in the back and this beautiful grass area, this field. It wasn't an area, it was a massive field. And the timbers that were felled in, or they were sourced and heavily researched for straightness, height, age, width, and pulled out of the Appalachian Mountains by horse and carriage. Am I correct? Yes.
That's correct.
And I'm sorry.
At least some of them were,
Some, yeah.
not everyone, but yes, we used horses to demonstrate that technique, and it's also a more sustainable way to work in a forest without destroying other trees.
Mm-hmm. But just the scale for our guests watching the program, I mean, just the scale of the space was really amazing. And just this, I wanted to show this image as a nighttime picture. This, to me, there's a crowd of timber framers in the back here. Michael Burry is one of them. And it just showed, all day the energy that took place on this field, working just hours and hours and taking breaks for lunch to just, get calories back after all of the, intense work. It was hard to walk away from the job site because the energy was there all day. And so this happened every day, every day that I was there, at least. Something that these pictures also don't show is the intense heat that was going on, and the bugs and the mugginess and, late summer Washington, D.C. oppressive heat.
Yes.
This is just a great perspective of Henry, showing the scale again of the truss, the cathedral in perspective to his saw and your person. It just kind of shows the scale. And what is this that you're sawing, Henry?
I believe that was the upper tie beam. That's what it looks like, at least from where I am. Yeah, and I think actually I did a method on that was taught to us by Michael called the French snap. It's where it's a quicker way of taking off excess wood and making two opposing cuts. And if the grain of the wood is straight enough, you technically can snap off the excess wood in one quick motion. And it ended up working in my favor and saving me a little bit of time. Yeah, I think that, yeah. I think
and is this the joint that I have multiple pictures in this slideshow of you working on this one corner. Did you kind of stick to one part?
No, no, absolutely not. So I mean, I was floating around as much as I could, as hard as I was trying to focus on one thing. There was, something would come out of the corner of my eye and oh, that's interesting. I want to go see what's going on over there. And if I could help, I would. If not, I would just see how it was going and see what was happening. I mean, it was also interesting. It was almost impossible for me to try to stick to one thing the entire time.
Yeah. I mean, and we're going to talk about that in a few slides about the educational part of this. And that's part of why you were sort of all over the field, picking up different projects where you could, because it's all about digesting, new ways of doing things.
Mm.
The tools, I want to talk about the tools because that also was a sort of just a real whole part of being there, and the profound space and being in this project is all of the tools that were there. No power. Well, who knows if somebody had a power tool? I'm sure somebody had something kicking around, but just all axes and analog devices. This picture just shows our Sprinter van, the North Bennett van, which is this doesn't even do it justice. It was cram full of axes, and as Henry can attest. But I just love it. It's just like load. Part of hearing the call to this project is just get the stuff in the van and get down there and do the work. Just some miscellaneous shots of really beautiful tools that were used on this project. The pit saw on the left that we'll see some video of in a little bit, and this shot on the right, which it took me until today to realize that that's a Svedbro pry bar, which is like the top of the line. And right, Henry, and I sell it in the store, and it's identifiable by that blue chipped paint. And Preservation Carpenters swear by it, apparently.
And the Preservation Carpenters or the North Bennett Street van was very essential to getting a lot of the tools there. So.
Oh yeah. These beautiful large dividers that were just gorgeous. The twine and the wooden spool, I'm used to seeing these modern Tajima carpenters chalk line boxes, and just beautiful to see these more antique objects in play and being used. In one of the buildings of the architectural school, I found people had their tools stowed away in there, and this is just one surface of a person's axe collection they brought for this project. So if you can imagine, if this is just one person's selection, and how many timber framers did you have on site approximately?
Well, there were about 30 professionals, and then the North Bennett Street crew, and so there were probably over 200 axes on site in some form or fashion. I mean, whether they were all used is not for sure, but there were a lot of them.
Mm-hmm. This tool on the right was just, I saw this being used a lot to flip over and move the timbers, just because they're massive and you could lose a foot or something. So I believe this is what that was for. Am I right, Henry?
Yeah, absolutely.
I just loved this tool as it's a beautiful object, but has this great function before the final pin goes in. It enabled the framers to keep going in and out and moving this thing as it needs to be adjusted. And I just loved the tool itself. And this is my favorite image that I need to tell a story about. The Catholic University gave their dorms over to this whole project so graciously. And the first day that I got there, they had like a kitchenette on each floor in this dorm. And my first day I was there, and I walk into this kitchen space, and there's zero evidence of anything cooking related, not a coffee pot, nothing in the fridge, maybe some beers, just nothing, no glasses, no plates or cups, except for a grinder and a bottle of water and a pile of paper towels. And I just thought how symbolic of a timber framer's life that that's what they would have in their kitchen.
So that was actually partially me. I was lucky enough that one of the carpenters there, John Nininger, had his Tormeg grinder, and I had just gotten a new hewing axe from Hank Silver, and I needed to do some work to it if I wanted to be able to use it, and I definitely wanted to, because I mean, when in Rome, right? So I decided to, spend a little time late at night doing some grinding, slow and steady, but ended up working out in the end.
I love that, Henry. Thank you so much for that moment. It was one of my favorite moments of being down there. It's all you need in a kitchen of a timber framer.
Mm.
So the work, that's really the meat of the story as well. It was backbreaking work all day for 2 weeks. And this is Sophie Linnell, who's a graduate of Preservation Carpentry here, working on a piece of wood that I was fortunate enough to jump on with her. And I'll get to that in a second. A close-up of what the work is they're doing. And I have a video of this shortly as well. The other part of the work was all of the extraneous stuff that what I learned, what I walked away from was how, what value that all carries as well. Raking up the shavings so that we don't kill the grass, cleaning up, filling the Band-Aid box. If you're doing that, that's an extremely valuable role. Cutting the watermelon and the cool treats to give everybody at the end of the day. I mean, every person had value on this job site, and I loved that. Charlotte, and this is Charlotte on the left, Charlotte Wampold, but this is everybody on the job site constantly sharpening their axes, and Michael Burry constantly sharpening this pit saw. And I just have to throw in this personal anecdote of, being an outsider and coming onto this job site and the nature of the learning environment. I showed up just to film and take picture and document on behalf of you all, Henry. And what I learned right away is to go find myself work boots, because be of use. And I mean, not taking pictures, that's definitely documenting was being of use, but they needed help. And so I searched all over Washington, D.C. for work boots, which is impossible to find them for women, by the way. And finally I did. And Phil, who was helping everybody, a lot of NBSS students with technique and learning, he showed me how to swing the axe and got me up there. I did it for a little bit, and when I discovered I was in the way, I started to rake up shavings. So again, just every little step was valuable, and you all folded me in, and I just really appreciated that. And the scaled back shot of just seeing, this is the first moment where you actually see the scale of what's happening here in my mind. You start to see it take shape, and it's massive. And this is the trestle that you all built to operate the pit saw, which was used to saw out blanks for the clavettes for the truss. And Michael Burry reminded me that Carpenters Without Borders had determined that this tool was not used in the Notre Dame, the original trusses, but that you all decided to keep it as a demonstration to show another historical technique that could have been used. And it was awesome. And here's Sophie and Michael operating the pit saw. And we'll speak to that I'm going to show you this education video that I have that shows this operation and just showing other instances of the learning process that our students had there, and sort of the educational arm of what Handshouse is. This is Sophie Linnell and Michael Burry operating the pit saw. was Phil and Charlotte. Phil showing Charlotte this technique, which Henry, what kind of technique is this again?
So I actually, I just saw Sophie post something about this. I don't want to say, just in case I get it wrong, but it truly is amazing to watch. So I watched, I want to say 3 pairs of people do this all on, it was a German technique by an anonymous person just told me that. It was a German technique.
And sorry, I just want to interrupt. This is now Charlotte taking what she just learned and doing it with Tom Eldridge, who's also a graduate of PC. Sorry, go ahead, Henry.
But it was really, really crazy to watch. 3 pairs of people do this on one log.
Wow.
I wish I could have, I probably have a video somewhere if I was able to send that in, but the amount of swinging is just very, very interesting to watch. And it's really, really cool.
Yeah. Again, this is a moment where Phil was working with Sophie and kind of passing along his tips of efficiency, which you kind of need in this process, right? Because there's so much wood to be cut down.
Hmm.
You know the value of that. That's
Points,
good.
constant points of reference.
Right. Exactly. Good. Efficiency is what it really is.
Yeah.
And you're working around knots and just brutal fibers.
So this is Nevin Carling using what I think is the axe that was given to him by the Eric Sloan Museum. Shout out to them. And Andrew, fantastic people. I believe that I might be wrong, but I think that was the introduction of one of Eric Sloan's axes that he was gifted to use on this project, which is incredibly cool.
Wow. So those kind of showed and represented some of the educational moments that our students had, learning to use a pit saw, learning these new techniques of hewing. And that's just a tiny slice of what they learned there, as Henry will attest to. But the other educational arm that was on this job site was the architectural college at Catholic University. Those students were involved in the project by being on site and working the site, but they also had a course specifically developed for them in their college around this project, which I think was incredible. I mean, what an incredible experience for them. And so they had this beautiful gallery space in their school where they had all of these 3D printed models of the Notre Dame Cathedral and drawings and beautiful images and the little pine and basswood miniature truss mock-ups, which, you know, who doesn't love a miniature truss? Who doesn't love a miniature anything? Just beautiful. And these beautiful hand-painted illustrations. I loved being in their gallery space. I thought that was really special. The graduation. Our North Bennett Street School students were on site while we had our school-wide graduation here in the North End at Old North Church. So we presented it to them. We streamed our graduation for the PC students on this job site, and it was a really funny thing to watch because they were pulled away from the job site, and it was a very painful and funny moment to watch them sit here watching their graduation while also longingly looking in the past and beyond, you know, wanting to get back to work. And it was pretty funny. To me, it was pretty funny.
I wouldn't say it was that painful. I mean, it was nice to all be there. I think that's what really mattered. The only painful thing in that picture is the sunburn on my arms.
Oh,
Yeah, no, I think no matter where it was, we were all there.
Yeah.
That's what mattered. Yeah.
and you felt connected to your student body, I'm sure. I mean,
Yeah.
that was why.
What was very nice for people, of the rest of the crew, is whenever a name was announced for graduating, everybody would cheer and clap. So that side would have this
Yeah.
clap, and it's because it's like a graduation, but it was on through a computer.
Yeah, I know. That was funny.
Very, very charming.
Yes. Yeah, you all clapped for each other.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the whole job shut down, or the whole job sites shut down so we could have a proper graduation, which I'm also going to share a video of. And Rick Brown was the commencement speaker at this graduation. And unfortunately, I shortened the clip. We don't have the poem that you read, but we're going to talk about it. So Rick read, his commencement speech was this beautiful poem called To Be of Use. And that was the commencement speech, and it was just really stunning and moving. And I don't have that in this video clip, but we'll share that with the world at a later time. So onward, I'm just going to read you out. Kevin Damon Cronmiller, congratulations. We forced them to walk up the trestle.
Mark
for
Davidson.
the ultimate shot.
Congratulations. Matt Doherty. Thomas Eldridge.
Notice all the tape on his hands.
Sophie Linnell. Henry Newhard. Philip Voyer. And Charlotte Wampold. Congratulations, everyone.
And before I finish this clip, I just want to let everybody know that, and as Rick Brown said, it was the best graduation ever. And sort of the beauty in it was you all, Henry and your classmates, you had just come through the end of a almost mostly virtual learning year. And you know, this was kind of the tail end of the first pandemic year, and we had a lot of remote virtual learning, and to come through that and to have this on-site physical experience as your final project and graduation moment was, I mean, it's moving to me.
Yeah, no, it was a very unique experience. We really went out with a bang.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to put it. We did go through that, and I commend all my classmates, sticking through it. I mean, I know I had times that I was pulling my hair out. I was like, that this is not why I came here. This is, I want this in-person, experience. And I think after, when we did eventually get back, Michael did his best, and if not more, to definitely more to make up for it. I mean, Michael Burry and Steve O'Shaughnessy have shown all of us so much, and I know none of us take it for granted. We all are very grateful for it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. It was an amazing time of my life, and
And
I
what
wish
an
I was
end
still there.
cap.
Yeah, yeah. And what an end cap to a really wild year.
Yeah.
I'm just going to finish this clip where we talked to Charlotte and Sophie about things that they learned. Sophie and Charlotte, hello.
Hi.
Greetings. Greetings. You graduated yesterday?
We did.
We did? Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
And I have to note that watching you all be forced to watch the graduation was hilarious and painful because you wanted to be out here so badly.
It was hard not to like longingly look off into the distance as everyone else continued doing this.
Yes, like what are they doing?
Yeah.
Who has my axe? What do you say about this? I mean,
It's been just a blast all week long. It's been so much fun to not only get to work on this, which like I think most of us already knew that we liked timber framing, but and to get to do it on the scale was really cool. But it's just been so many interesting and like talented people to meet and get to work alongside has been probably one of the best parts of it for sure. Just this incredible like network of people, and I don't know, everyone's been very friendly and very open to teaching. Kind of this presents so many moments for teaching too, so yeah. It's been great. You know, even in the off moments, like getting meals together and hanging out after work, you know, just that the learning and the sharing of stories just continues. So it's very special.
yeah, that's one thing that I've noticed, just observed from my side of things, is what's most visible here is the sense of community within this industry and field. So, I mean, you must feel that, right? Like, oh, this is a great forward path.
Absolutely, yeah. It's also been kind of just building on the idea of the sense of community, but also just the breadth of knowledge here. What's been kind of neat is that for the past year or so at the North Bennett Street School, all the stuff we've been doing, and particularly I'd say with timber framing, there's been a big focus specifically on New England style of doing things, or British style of doing things, which is a huge topic in and of itself that like we already didn't have enough time to cover in full. But here there's a breadth of knowledge of timber framing from like all over the world. I mean, there are people who are used to doing stuff out west and they have kind of a different approach or a different set of tricks, and then there are people who have studied in Scandinavia and people who have studied in France and Germany.
German techniques.
Yeah. And they've all got slightly different techniques to accomplish something, and I don't know where else we would have gotten that.
Right. Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you, and congratulations on yesterday.
Thank you.
Can I just add something? All I have to say is Charlotte and Sophie are two of the most amazing women I know. They're up there with my mom. Like they're up there for sure. They are two amazing people.
Well said.
I agree, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for shouting them out,
Yeah.
because we all love them.
They deserve it.
Yeah, I have one last very short clip that sort of falls out of line here, but it's worth seeing because it's the overall community of what's going on here, and I just thought it was really beautiful. These things are so heavy that you literally do need everybody to move it a couple of inches. A bunch of little ants. Everybody got back to work after graduation and right back to it. Henry, here's that same joint you were working on, I believe.
Yeah, it looks like.
And I'm just gonna breeze through these to get to the last few images. So Charlotte learning some new
new skills? Henry, what are you doing here?
It looks like I was having my hand held a little bit while I was describing by a fellow named Miles, very nice person. And yeah, it looks like I was hanging a plumb bob over the side of that upper tie to scrap it in.
Thank you. And the last thing we share with you, and these are not my images, these are Laura's. Laura, you gave me these, thank you for that. Just the raising of the timber frame that you can learn much more about and see much more images on handshouse.org. But this is the raising at Catholic University. And the whole crew, once it was raised, just to see the scale of this thing. And then it was moved and raised on the mall between the Washington Monument and Lincoln Memorial. And then finally to the National Building Museum. And I believe now it's, and Rick can tell us this once I close the slideshow out, where it's now in Atlanta.
It's in storage right now in Lexington, Virginia.
Mhm.
And we are scheduled to raise the truss at the Millennium Gate in Atlanta in March.
Wonderful.
Yeah, that's going to be another nice venue to display.
Great. And so I just want for our guests, before I close this, the screen share out, to follow and support the project through handshouse.org. So that's where you'll get the most current up-to-date information and give your support and follow along. And we have a lot of questions. So if you have any more, throw them our way right now for Henry and Laura and Rick. What does the double strike German technique accomplish that a single person could not do, Henry?
I would say to a sense of efficiency and speed. Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends. I mean, less work for one person, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're saving your back at the end of the day, I would think.
Yep.
I think there's the juggling that's where you stand on it and you're coming down with the axe, creating the notches. And this is you're on the ground, and I think you're thinking of less work and easier on your back. And these were actually thinner. They were more. They'd already flattened two sides, so it was a little less material to have to remove. So it's all
Safety too.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Well, I was going to say they were also at hip height. So instead of bending over, make this joggling cuts, it was much easier to have it in, a little more eye view.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
Again, for our guests, if you have questions for our panelists, for Henry or Rick and Laura, you can just type them into the chat box and I'll read them out loud. Henry, if you can identify just one thing that you took away from being on this job site with this community, what do you think it would be? Or 10 things.
Well, you said 10 things?
One thing or 10 things?
Oh, I could tell you a lot, but I think I have one to really sum it up. And I've been saying this forever, but you're going to be learning until the day you die, and don't think you're never going to stop learning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would think that's the best way to sum it up.
And
And in this community, I mean, when I was down there with you, you had mentioned that it sort of, you gained so much contact that it's like the ultimate first step into your career as a timber framer, to just be around all of these timber framers.
I mean, yeah, to be surrounded by so many interesting people with so many amazing stories and so much knowledge and such a similar passion, to be surrounded by so much passion is very, very unique and breathtaking, and it makes your head spin. And I mean, yeah, I as you know, as much as I wanted to focus on the work, which I did my fair share of, I couldn't help but wondering what was going through the guy's head next to me. And you know, I would definitely do my fair share of networking in the most appropriate times I could. But yeah, no, I met some amazing people, and a lot of them I'm lucky enough to call friends now.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's definitely one identifier from my brief time there is just the passion and the knowledge that everybody dropped their lives to be on this job site and do this work.
Yeah. And that's not an easy thing to ask. Seriously isn't.
No. And Rick and Laura, in your experience through these projects that you create, what do you think that is? What is that thread that makes people decide to stop what they're doing, put it on pause and show up?
I think that you know, Henry has said answered that question for us in a lot of ways. Is that you know, people come because they want to learn from each other. They want to learn. They want to work together. You know, what we say at Handshouse is that we try to create dynamic learning environments. We're not necessarily just there to impart information. We're there to create a situation. The psychology of the situation is so positive. Everybody's contributing and everybody's learning. And so what you do is you're learning by doing. And again, as Henry has said, there's so many different, or we heard from Charlotte and also from Sophie about, there's so many different cultures being represented there, different tools and different techniques, and all that becomes this incredible dynamic potential for learning. And so you feel the camaraderie, you feel their passion, you share that, and all that builds into this project where, you know, really people might be doing this for the first time, and they walk away, and then Henry said it, you know, this is life-changing. So it's
also the professionals this is something that they don't get to do so much either. I mean, you know, they may do hewing in their work, but to be able to do something as significant as the Truss from Notre Dame is kind of that's the big carrot. That's the big attraction. But in addition to that, it is the bonding, the networking, the sharing, as we all said. But also, I would have to say the professionals, they know they're coming and working with students, if you will, or learners. But everyone becomes a learner in that environment, because they are learning from each other. They're learning how to teach, or how to show, how to share. I mean, it's a back and a forth and a back and forth, and it really has a magic. Mm-hmm. It's a glue, it's a magic, and people do not leave until it is done. And that's what just blows me away, because, you know, we kind of create this environment. It's 90 degrees. You got, you know, 30 huge logs you got to hew. And I mean, and the time is short, and there's this, we will do this because this is not only important, it's also very engaging, you know, and everybody throws themselves at it. And it is, it's a magic thing that happens, and we've seen it happen repeatedly, and you have to kind of put everybody together for this intense 12 days and hope it comes out.
And I just want to pay credit to Rick and Laura for somehow you convey that so clearly and crisply to the professionals that come into the environment, that every moment is a learning moment. I heard that all over the job site of, don't worry, this doesn't need to be perfect. You're learning to do it, I appreciated that. I heard that out of so many people's mouths. So that's credit to you for somehow laying down that foundation that, there's no hierarchy here necessarily. It's a learning journey for everyone.
If I could piggyback on that a little bit, I completely agree. But I think a lot of people also had the mentality and the mind state of wanting to make it perfect. I mean, this is such an amazing project to be part of. It's once in a lifetime, and like, why not do your best, make it perfect? And I know I was, at least, and I think at least some of my classmates were a little nervous about it. I mean, how could you not be? Like, we wanted this to be absolutely perfect. We wanted to show our worth. We're not just some people that went to school, like we can hang with the big dogs in a sense, but no, I think a lot of us had the mindset of doing our absolute best, which you should do with anything you put your mind to. But this was definitely something we wanted to see be perfect.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And we hope that that the incredible craftsmanship and love of craft and exactly what Henry's talking about would speak to the world. And that was because there's a no one can do this kind of attitude. Yes, we can. And yes, there's wood, and yes, there's skill, and the craft is alive and worth preserving and worth using for a building of this significance. And this is what we're still working to speak to the world and to France in particular about possibility. So
do I recall this correctly? Were there going to be French carpenters at this site, but it was impossible because of travel, COVID?
Yeah, we wanted to bring French carpenters to join us, but because of COVID, they couldn't get permission to come into the U.S.
Yeah,
I mean, it was in the works, but COVID made trouble and actually maybe slowed things down so that this could happen as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we are still, the project is still going, and there's still a possibility in the future that we might build another one. I mean, that's what we're working toward. And if the conditions are different and the French can travel here, then we would love to have some French carpenters join the carpenters here, because this is, again, a way to make it an international learning experience.
Mm-hmm. Before we close out, I just want to ask you, can you speak to how long the truss will be up in Atlanta once it goes up? What's the next step?
Well, the truss in Atlanta, they've invited us to leave it there, not with an open calendar, but probably for a month or maybe two. We're not sure yet, but we're pretty confident it'll be up probably around a month.
It will be not indoors.
Yeah, it's
Outdoors.
It's in a situation that's protected, should we say, but public. So we're working daily in all our moving things forward. I mean, that's kind of where our hewing happens.
That's we're whittling away at the project.
Yeah.
Sharpening our axes and
Yeah.
hewing those connections. That's really that's and then a lot of talking.
Yeah.
Bring 'em
I have
together.
I have a technical question before I forget to let it slip by. Were the drawings that we saw that you used on the job site, were they ancient reproductions or modern interpretations of the truss?
They were drawings done before the burn, as documenting every truss in the roof separately for restoration purposes. I mean, they were working on the roof structure when it burned. So these were drawings done by the architects, right?
Remy Fremont
and
Cedar.
from the actuals.
Yeah.
So they were not ancient drawings, they were contemporary drawings, hand drawings done by people measuring the actual trusses.
Wow. And so very timely to have done that and completed it
Amazing.
before. Yeah.
Amazing. So
What would you have done if there weren't, I mean, is that the origin sort of, that just like the fact that there are drawings that you could work from, or what would you have done had there not been schematics made?
questions, what would they have done?
There had been, over 800 years, there had been different studies going on to look at the structure, and so there were other documents that were probably accessible, but it was the fact that they were doing this new restoration, and that they had done a complete set of drawings shortly before it was the fire was really kind of miraculous in a way, and they are incredibly well detailed. So
Can we go out? So
Everybody who watches In the Making, they know our lights are on sensors, so I have to wave my arm.
one last thing is this was the oldest section. The drawing, the other sections of the roof were done redone. So these were the original trusses that were drawn.
Okay.
The oldest.
Well, with that, I just want to thank you all. Thank you, Henry and Rick and Laura, for being with us this evening. It's just really a pleasure having you all. And yeah, and to our guests for being with us this evening. It's just really great to have you all. And we'll see you at the next In the Making. And again, thank you, Henry, Rick, and Laura, for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and we'll see you all really soon.
thank you.
Okay.
All right, take care.